Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Skoventyr, a solo and cooperative card game from Impatience. And disclaimer that I was sent a review copy of this one, and also I've had many conversations with the designer, Morton, from the Automa Factory over the years. I've enjoyed many of the Oniverse games from Impatience over the years, but this is a bit of a different beast. How well does it stand up? Let's find out and get to the list. So first for my number 5 point, I'm looking at the solo and cooperative play in the game, and this is a mix for my taste. So you can play with between 1 through 6 players, and the only difference is how many turns it takes to come back around to you as you pick the 4 main actions to resolve. Well, I say the only difference, but really the main difference is that you each have your own hand of cards and limitations on when you can play them. And this is going to be positive or negative depending on your taste. The game works wonderfully solo. I have 0 complaints there. And with co-op, it's also pretty good. I played it with my son. I played it 3-player. I didn't go all the way up to 6 players. And the thing is, the game does become more difficult, but at the same time that it is more challenging, it does create kind of an interesting timing puzzle because you can't just play the cards in the exact order you want. You have to wait for the right timing for the cards that you want to combo together to be played together with different players holding those cards. Getting to my number 4 point, this one is a pro for my taste, and that's the modular options in the game. They work really well to complement the game while also giving you new tools and powers to use on your side, and I enjoy them both. Mixing and matching is fun, or you can put them all together for a real complex game. But honestly, even though it's way simpler, my favorite modular element of the game is the fact that you can include more trees to make it easier, or start with some trees flipped to their damage side to make it harder. It's a very clean, simple difficulty system, but getting to more of the core mechanics in the game, my number 3 is a full pro, and that's the option to discard the allies from your hand for different special effects. And this is an agonizing decision, and one I really appreciate. Because first of all, it does cost quite a bit to get allies into your hands, so just throwing them away without actually executing your final goal, because you're supposed to be using them in combos to capture or defeat minions. You're not doing that if you're discarding them, but the powers you get for discarding them are so powerful, so overpowered it almost seems, that you still really want to. But the math of the number of cards and the number of 3s of a kind and 4s of a kind you need to defeat all of the enemies means that you really are walking a fine tactical line whenever you get rid of these cards, because generally they don't come back. So if you're using them for their cool discard powers, you are going further and further away from actually winning the game. And that give and take, that multi-use choice of the cards, I really think is great. And that goes into my number 2 point, which is also a pro for the game, and that's the forest management. So kind of the core idea, the core concept of the game is you're trying to get these groups of allies, and you have to actually put them down in the forest where they are interacted with in different ways, and then use them to defeat the minions. So that's a pretty basic, straightforward goal to go for. But at the same time, this Danish devil is chasing after you, and you have to move your little god badger out of the way, and a lot of the effects will have movement options to use. And then you also have flipping trees and burning them, or potentially removing them entirely and just making it that much faster for the devil to catch up to you as another tool in your arsenal. And yes, the gameplay is fairly straightforward. It's fairly quick when you play. You're not really doing drastically different things each time. But this core kind of spatial puzzle and building out your combos to defeat the enemies is consistently tense and interesting each time I play. And that brings me to my number 1 point for Skoventyr, which is the future pile and how you get cards into your hand and have to manage them. And this is another pro for my taste with some caveats. So the first really interesting thing, I mentioned the discard ability of each of the allies, but you also need to fulfill different conditions to get them into your hand. You can't just draw them freely. But then the really interesting part, eventually these adversary cards show up, and you can clear them out, but they never go away. Well, there are a few ways to get rid of them. They just go to the bottom and they move the devil closer to you, but eventually you might kind of fill the thing with them, and then you can damage the forest to put them on the bottom of the deck. So the choice of when to take these cards, what order to take them in, which player to take them, is just consistently interesting, consistently tense. But the one caveat that might annoy you about the game is that there is a lot of luck draw in here. Now, this is not going to happen too often. The game doesn't swing that extremely. Usually it tends to be pretty tense each time. And also it's like a 15-20 minute play, so it's not a big deal if it does swing a little bit toward easy or hard, but just something to be aware of. Doesn't bother me too much, but certainly card luck draw does play a part here. So overall, you might want to check out Skoventyr if you've enjoyed Oniverse games in the past, if you want a quick playing card game with tough choices that works well cooperative or solo, and it does have some nice variety in the modules that can extend the gameplay. But on the other hand, you might want to be cautious of this one if you're looking for a really meaty experience. If you want infinite variety and replayability, it does tend to be a similar thing each time. Or if you don't want a healthy dose of card draw luck in your games. And if you want to see the game in action, Jason did a playthrough a while back. But thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.